Another part of the movie Tombstone that I really appreciate, and I think is what gives it its uniqueness, is there was the part of the movie where Doc Holliday and Johnny Ringo had met in the saloon, and I think some of us call it the Latin scene. And basically, it's sort of an introduction to those two characters in a setting that it was full of people. They were meeting the actors that had acted a show that evening, and so they had gathered at the saloon that Wyatt Earp was working in. And so Doc Holliday and Johnny Ringo had sort of introduced themselves. And what's unique about this particular scene is they spoke to each other in Latin. It kind of started out in English and then they went into Latin. And how Val and Michael had brought that scene together and so intense and unique and sort of this charismatic, romantic feel about it. And it just brought you in. It kind of, at any moment, you thought they could take each other out. But it kind of set a tone. And sometimes those are hard. Those particular scenes or that chemistry, on-screen chemistry, is really hard to create unless you have really dedicated actors. And those two guys in particular made that movie, made that relationship between those two, because eventually they would finish that story. They had met after the OK Corral fight. They had met on the street, but Johnny Ringo wasn't quite in the proper mind. But they eventually met each other at the end, towards the end of the movie, where they had their famous duel. And so it was just those particular characters and those particular actors bringing out those characters. And that's really, one of the great things about this particular movie. And, basically the final climax of the movie, the scene where after they had attacked Wyatt and his family, and then he went on a tear with Doc Holliday and all his friends and basically wiped out the Cowboys. And so it just had this, violent, and it kind of told a story of the Old West. And as much as we have probably romanticized it or thought it was one way, and it really was kind of a violent time. There wasn't a lot of law that could administrate law in those territories, in those early states, in those times when things were, wild and free. And